to you guys then, as young black men, the phrase mental health services, mental health, does that have a stigma for you?
Yes.
Would you think twice?
It's too pressuring. Like what he was just saying about going into like these facilities where it's like you're going there for help, and it's like even though they're not judging you, it feels like they are. Do you get what I mean? So it's like you have to go. Whereas if like 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 in TV shows how they have like counselors in school and that, and they kind of just like chat to you, or like you have like them people like what you were saying recently about how you have like them people in your life where they're not necessarily a counsellor, but you chat to them and you feel better and whatnot. Like it should feel more like that than you having to go to a facility, get tested, like all this weird stuff, because then it's just like why is it that big? Do you get what I mean? Even though obviously it's big, but like it shouldn't feel like that much pressure is on you to do everything, especially if you're not in the right mind frame.
What do you think, guys?
Not for me, just think it's like normal, just to go somewhere to
Get help.
for mental problems.
Yeah.
Anything that's related to well-being and the enhancements of it. I don't think there's too much of a pressure and need to hide it from anything.
That's refreshing. That's refreshing to hear. So you think that we should treat it in exactly the same way we go to your doctor if you've hurt your foot, or you twisted your ankle, or you've got a cold, a chest infection that you can't shake off.
Yeah.
That we should start seeing it in the same way.
Yeah.
We should see it in that way, because that came out the research, but there was also that reality that there's a sense of a stigma there still. So if you raise it up in the community and some of your friends or peers or people in school may find out about it, then they may look at you differently. And that again was one of the more difficult findings. So we asked, there was a question around, well, if you began to feel this way, what would you do? And one young person said, well, I wouldn't want my friends to change their attitudes to me, so I'd probably keep it quiet and not say anything and hope that it goes away. So whilst we want it to be normal and should be normalised, an everyday feature where you just go to the doctors, as we're saying, there's still that sense for us that if we speak about it in this way, then some people may, hold on, what's going on there? I remember growing up, and I used to go to church as a kid, and sometimes, and it's not a negative thing, in church we often saw where somebody's got mental health, where maybe we just need to pray for them.
Yeah.
And I also, prayed, and even that was a bit weird, growing up and looking back and thinking, how bizarre, how weird was it that even people looked at it and thought about it in that way.
And a pray away mental health condition.
And that's still there, isn't it? Sometimes it's still there in particular communities that we still think about it in that way as well.
Yeah, because Miracle, when we spoke yesterday, you mentioned something, right? Remember you were talking about?
Because I come from like a very ruralistic country. Nigeria is a developing country. It's not at the point the UK is. So like when mental health arises, because a country is also spiritual, you also have this like tendencies in like rural areas where they will like beat mercilessly the person suffering until the point, because it's like a saying, if you're beating a madman and he tells you to stop, he's obviously no longer mad. It's all because you're not in the state of mind to say stop. Understand? So it's like, instead of praying it, it's more violent than saying we're going to beat it out of you. Understand? Yeah.
Wow.
It's like it's not all the time. It's like Nigeria is not all like it happens in few areas.
Yeah. But is that still? It's a question I'm asking. Is that still enough of a barrier for young people who are in Manchester, for example? Because we're not in Nigeria, are we? And we're not in spaces. I guess the power of the church is probably ebbing a bit as well. So what are the barriers that are stopping us from going? Because it's not that fear of a beating, is it?
No. I would say maybe not physically, but like you said, you don't want your friends to know about it. You don't want your family to know about it. You don't want anyone to know about it, so you tend to just keep it inside. You know what I mean? Which ends up making things worse.
So it's the fear of judgment, being judged and being seen differently. Yeah, I think community still sways a big part of that, because it's the thing of association. I know it's slightly different. I remember when I was younger, and when somebody went to prison in the Caribbean community, they'd say he's gone on holiday. And that's what they tell the children. So I know, remember my dad going to prison, And for 6 months, my grandma would say, "Where's dad? Dad's on holiday." I was like, that's a long holiday that my dad took.
Yeah.
But the stigma of openly saying my son's in prison is enough for some people to lie and to do anything that they can do to not confront that thing.
Yeah.
So maybe mental health is a similar type of topic. It's something that we're so uncomfortable with that we'll go to any lengths to not speak about it, to hide it, to shun it.
I think that's what was really powerful about that first piece of work, is that it revealed the significance of that stigma and how that stigma and not wanting to be attached to that stigma meant that people would literally close down these conversations, would silence out these conversations. The notion of this project, therefore, and the idea that what we need to do is promote and speak openly and honestly and begin to break down that stigma, I think is an extremely powerful tool, device and weapon, particularly for those young people who are going to be coming after you as well. That it is a normal occurrence. We will all go through episodes and moments of grief, loss, poor well-being, mental health concerns, stress, and that's a feature of our humanity. And what we do is embrace all features of our humanity and respond appropriately to them, rather than trying to conceal aspects of our humanity. So I think that's a really powerful virtue of this piece of work, and I think it will certainly go towards trying to break down the stigma and that taboo of mental health well-being within black communities. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a particular feature of black communities. I know white kids who have similar problems and similar episodes, but that disproportionality that I was talking about earlier shows that it's more likely to impact on particular groups. And that's why we have a responsibility to begin to respond to that and to destigmatise those concerns around mental health services. But I also think there's a responsibility to the agencies themselves. And I think it's gone back to a point we're making. Some of these spaces don't feel like the type of space you want to walk into because of that sense of feeling judged. There's enough negative perceptions around, I would argue, around young black men anyway, without trying to layer on the mental health concern on top. And again, this is what came from the first piece of work we did. So that focus on, well, they all think we're involved in gangs and we're all involved in badness, and they all think this, that almost goes before us. So then you go to an agency, and it's a white middle class agency, and you've got white psychology, female graduates looking to engage with you, then I'm not sure to what extent that lends itself to responding to my needs or the needs of young black kids coming from different parts of the city. So there's a question around, well, what do these services need to begin to do? They have a responsibility as well. It's not just on us, but also on those agencies to ensure that they are more responsive to our needs. My daughters like to play on the phones, so they self-medicate and self-assess, don't they? What's this? They go on Google and it say NHS Direct, and I remember the kids spoke to us and said that's how they'd assess themselves. Yeah, that's how they'd work out what was wrong with them. They'd go online. So the question for them was, well, why don't we build up platforms? Why don't we set up a platform online so that young people can go and say, all right, let's ask Reese. It's a really good name for an app, isn't it? Ask Reese. And that'd be a way in which they could explore how they're feeling and whether they should be referred to Reese or to an agency. So it's about us thinking about those different ways and the better ways in which we can have services that we can respond to rather than the services you were talking about earlier. Yeah.